Hey guys, welcome back to the YouTube channel. This is Alex, Credit Expert. Today I'm going to be going over a topic that's super important and is actually very important to me because this is exactly what I did in order to start the business that I have now. And it's pretty cool because this is actually the method that I use in order to start my business. So it's cool to be able to give this information back to you guys. So I won't talk too much fluff. Let's go ahead and get started. So I call this the credit to capital method. The reason it's named that is because we leverage our credit to go ahead and get access to the bank's money to then invest into ourselves and start a business. That's why we go from credit to capital. So I wrote it down in 3 different sections. The first section is structure. We want to structure everything so we look good. The second portion is the funding sequence. This is us actually getting the money from the banks, from whoever, to start the business. And then the last part is deploying the funds. Deploying the funds means that we're going to use this money in order to start that business, in order to invest that money, whatever we got to do to actually make our return on our investment. So let's go ahead and break it down. And like I mentioned, this is actually pretty dear to my heart because this is exactly what I did in order to start my business and be here teaching you guys how to do the same thing. So let's go ahead and break it down. The first thing we want when we're looking at the credit to capital method is structure. We want to make sure that our credit file is lined up correctly. If our credit file is not lined up correctly, we are not going to get access to money. So what does a proper credit file look like? The first thing we want to do is make sure we have no negatives. The next thing we want to make sure is utilization is 30% or lower. Ideally, 10% or lower. We want to make sure that credit age is about 4 years. And we want to make sure that we have primary accounts. Primary accounts are cards, loans, things that you took out in your name only. Remember, there's trade lines, which are authorized users. Banks can see that it's not actually your account, so they don't hold as much weight. When we want to get big funding, we need to show the banks that we can handle our own accounts. That's why primary accounts are so important. So this can mean credit cards or loans. Preferably, you want to have at least 2 credit cards. And you also want to have collectively about 25,000 limits to your name. So that's ideal. That's where we want to be. But if you're not there yet, it's okay. Because if you have negatives, you can fix that. Go through credit repair. If you have utilization, we can fix that. Save some money, pay it down. We can talk about more advanced strategies later, like debt consolidation. And then credit age, if you don't have that, add a trade line. I talk to you guys all the time about trade lines being one of the easiest ways to boost your age. You just get added onto somebody's credit card account that has been open for a long time, that has never had any negative history, has a low balance, and has a lot of age. As soon as they add you on as an authorized user, that data will merge with your credit report within 30 days. And usually you'll see a huge spike in your age, which boosts you up very, very quickly. And the final part, like I mentioned, 2 credit cards. If you don't have many credit cards right now, you can always start with the credit union and you can go the secured credit card route. If you do the secured credit card route, make sure you wait until your credit cards are unsecured. That's going to put you in a better position to go get funding. If you already have 2 credit cards or more, then you should be good. At this point, I would just focus on building the limits up to 25,000 or higher. How can we build limits up if you don't have those type of limits yet? The way you build a credit limit is by spending on it. So what I would recommend is to spend on all your credit cards as much as you organically do. So I'm not saying to go out and buy stuff that you don't need in order to put more spend. Keep spending what you normally spend and pay that stuff off, but maybe get your friends or family involved, people that you trust. Tell them, hey, can you help me build my credit limits up? What I'll do is I'll let you use my credit card, put those spends on my credit card, and then just give me the cash. You'll find that a lot of friends and family are willing to help you, and this is great for you because now what you can do is you're showing the credit card company that you're spending a lot more on this card. So if they started you off with a $500 limit, if you're continuously spending the full $500 and paying it back, spending it, paying it back, you're going to start increasing that limit because they can tell that you can manage your money and that you need more of it. So this is an easy way for us to go ahead and increase our limits, and that's one technique you can focus on to make that happen. Other than that, we want to make sure that we don't have many hard inquiries. Remember, hard inquiries, you get them when you apply for credit. So if you've recently applied for credit, I would give yourself a cool down period of at least 6 months. 12 is preferred. You don't want to have recent inquiries when you're trying to go for a big round of funding. So if you recently took something out, try to wait 6 months, preferably 12. If it was maybe only one thing, then I wouldn't worry too much about this if everything else checks out. And remember, you guys can always delete hard inquiries that are not attached to an open account. In terms of hard inquiries, try to have less than 3. That'll put you in the best position possible. Most banks will typically start denying you if you have more than 3 inquiries in the last 12 months. So that is what a good, strong credit file looks like. The next thing we want to make sure is we have the proper business setup. So let me go ahead and change the color so you guys can see that one. Business setup means we just want to make sure that if we are going to go for business funding, which is something I encourage, that we are able to access it. In order to get business funding, we need to have an EIN number. Now, what is an EIN number? That's Employer Identification Number. How do we get that? In order for us to get that, we need to set up a business with our Secretary of State. So wherever you live, you can go to your Secretary of State and create a business. In order to create your business, you're going to need a business name, a business email address, business phone number, business address, and you're going to need a registered agent. Business phone number, you can use your own number. Business address, you can use your home address. And then registered agent, this is somebody that's required to be at the premise of this location pretty much during your business hours. So if you're using a home address, you can use yourself. And then the business website, it is not needed for the Secretary of State. Some may require it. From what I know, at least in California, we do not require it. Things can always change though, so just make sure you're always checking your guidelines on the Secretary of State of where you live, but the website is not really necessary. Now, you do need to know that all this information is usually public information, not the EIN number, but whatever you put for your business. Business name, business owners, registered agent, business phone number, and business address. If you are going to put your home address, then the only thing that you need to be aware of is that this is public information. If somebody knows your business name, they can search that up and then they could see the address that's on it. For some people, they don't care about this because some people don't care if people know where they live. But if you want privacy, I would highly recommend you get yourself a virtual address. That way you can put an address that you don't actually live at, because you don't want random people pulling up on you randomly at night or during the day. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would do there. Other than that, everything else for the most part, you could put your phone number, or you can get a 1-800 number from sites like Freedom Voice. Business website, you can go to GoDaddy. They usually have a domain and a website, like a quick landing page to build you out, super cheap. And then if you want a business email address, you could also get that from GoDaddy or Squarespace. Those are the ones I typically use, and it's super cheap. What this allows you to do with a business website is it allows you to use your business name at the end of it. So instead of it being like alex@yahoo.com, it could be alexfederexpert.com, whatever your business name is. Now, once we have all this, we can then file and incorporate with our state. And then once we are incorporated, we go to the IRS and then we request an EIN number. We give them all the information about our business. From there, they'll give us a identification number, and this identification number is exactly what we're going to take to the banks in order to open up business bank accounts and also apply for business funding here shortly. Once your business is set up, the next thing you want to make sure you start getting right is the banking relationships. So all a banking relationship is you pretty much dating the bank. So what a lot of people mess up on is they go to a bank and ask for a loan or a credit card without ever having any type of interaction with them. There's nothing wrong with that, and you can still get an approval like that, but you're in a much better position when you actually know the bank first. How do we know the bank? You open up a checking account, a savings account. If you're going for their business funding, you open up a business checking account, a business savings account, and then you deposit some money. Ideally, what we've seen best results is if you can deposit a minimum of $5,000, preferably $10,000, and let that money sit there for at least 5 business days. Doing this is going to season the relationship, and it's going to build the relationship. It's going to show the bank, hey, I just came to you and gave you some money. Now we're a little bit more, now we know each other a little bit better. This helps you because once you go for funding, this also helps the types of limits you receive. Because imagine this. Imagine if you're requesting $20,000 or $30,000 from a bank, you have no relationship. That means you don't have any business checking account or savings account, and you have no money with them. You're a stranger that is coming to the bank asking for 30 grand and you have nothing to show for it. But if you already have a banking relationship where you've established it, even if it's for a couple of days, and you already have 5 to 10,000 in that bank account, if you're asking them for 30K and they see 10,000 in the bank account, they're going to feel a lot safer giving you that 30K because they know you have money and you have money with them. So banking relationships, all it is open checkings accounts and also opening savings accounts with the bank. And then try to deposit money anywhere from 5 to 10K. And if you do not have this, it's okay. Deposit however much you have. And the final thing with the relationship, if you have a specific bank you really, really want to build with or really hoping to get a high limit from, I would recommend wherever your income is coming from, whether that's a job or actual business, use that bank and deposit all your money. Because the more deposits you have with the bank, the more they're going to love you and the more they're going to be willing to lend to you when that time comes. So try to increase deposits with whatever bank you want to build a strong relationship with. Now, obviously, if you're going for multiple banks of funding and you have like 5 or 6 bank accounts, it's not usually going to be possible to deposit big amounts into all of them. What you could do though is you could split up your deposits. If you get a direct deposit, you could put half of the money to go to one bank, the other half to go to the other bank, or you could manually do it where most money goes into one bank and then you withdraw it and deposit into another. That is up to you if you want to go that far. But for the most part, just try to build with a strong bank. And to give you guys some free game, I would highly suggest that you build your relationship with Chase, because Chase is going to be one of the biggest lenders in this space. Now, after we got the banking relationship down, we opened up an account with them and we're depositing money with them. The last thing is the money deposits, which actually we just talked about. So we were able to cover that right here. Again, if you have money, deposit it. If you don't, it's okay. And you do not need to deposit money in order to get an approval. You still have a good shot, because a lot of times they're going off your credit. So as long as your credit is taken care of, they're going to approve you. But this will always make or break the high limits that you're going for. And sometimes from what we've seen is even if you don't have a strong credit file, but you have a lot of money being deposited, they're willing to still lend to you. So clearly money deposits are important. Again, if you can, 5K at bare minimum, but 10K is preferred. So once you do this, the structure part, and you look amazing, you look great to the banks, now we can go ahead and ask them for money. So what does this mean? Once we're asking the banks for money, we want to determine what kind of funds are we trying to get. Are we trying to get 0% credit cards? Are we trying to get cash loans? Are we trying to get auto loans? Are we trying to get lines of credit? The type of money you want to get is going to depend on the type of business you're trying to run. For example, if you're trying to get a rental car fleet, maybe you don't want 0% credit cards. Maybe you don't want cash loans. Maybe you just want auto loans, because maybe you're thinking of buying 3 or 4 cars at the same time. However, I always recommend to get a little bit of everything. Auto loans is one of those where you don't really need it unless your business requires an auto loan. But what I would say is try to get a little bit of everything, because sometimes there's going to be purchases where you can put them on a credit card. And if it's 0% interest, take advantage of that. Some transactions have to be cash only depending on who you're working with. So you can't use a credit card here. This is where the cash loan can come in handy. Some transactions like cars, there's cars that are expensive, 100, 150,000, even 200,000. If you can get all that in an auto loan, that'd be much better and smarter than trying to get a cash loan or a credit card, because it's going to be very difficult to buy things that are that expensive on these two types of products. And then let's say maybe you're in the real estate field. Real estate people love lines of credit because you can pull cash into your bank account whenever you need it, and when you pay it back, that line is available again. Things like cash loans and auto loans, once you get the money given to you, once you pay off that loan, you don't have access to that money. You have to apply for another loan. Lines of credit give you a line of credit, you withdraw cash as you need it, and then you pay it back, and then you can withdraw that same amount of cash over and over again. So that's why lines of credit are great, because this money is always infinite, and so are credit cards. The money is always infinite. The only thing is with 0% credit cards, they're usually only 0% interest, anywhere from 9 to 18 months. So once that 0% interest period runs out, at that point, it does get high interest, so I wouldn't recommend it. But a lot of banks will actually allow you to keep getting more of the 0% products. And a lot of banks actually have multiple credit cards that are different with 0% interest. So that's when we can come back to the same bank and ask for a different one, and the 0% interest timer restarts. But to sum it up, just determine what kind of funds you need for the business you're running. Me personally, having an online business, I don't really need cash. I don't really need an auto loan, and I don't really need lines of credit, because lines of credit give me access to cash. What I do need is 0% credit cards, because most of my expenses are just on credit cards. So I take advantage of 0% interest. However, in my business decisions that I've done, I've taken out a cash loan because I've been able to leverage cash loans to not put a down payment on cars. I recently got myself a Lamborghini that was about $230,000. I was able to leverage an auto loan and cash loans to get into the car, zero money out of pocket. So for me, I did take advantage of these two. And I also am a car guy. I got some mods in order to buy these mods cash, because I knew the person I was buying it from was not going to take a credit card. So this is where it just has to make sense. Now, I don't recommend you guys to get an exotic car if you don't need it. This can attract business, but if you're just a startup, definitely do not recommend this right now unless you know what you're doing or it's crucial to your business. But with that being said, that is how I leverage cash loans and auto loans. I got myself a line of credit. I don't really need lines of credit, but I just got myself that money to have access to it. Because remember, you always want to be in a position where you have the money and don't need it, rather than need the money and not have it. So me knowing that, I got myself access to a 35K business line of credit, even though I don't use business lines of credit, because if it's ever a rainy day, at least I have some backup funds available to help me with things like utilization, which is another video on debt consolidation strategies. But the main thing I got was 0% credit cards. So that's how I use my funds. Once you know what kind of money you need for your business, go and get it. A lot of times for you guys though, it's just going to be 0% credit cards and maybe a cash loan. Now, once we determine the funds that we need, this is where we build the funding sequence. So this is the funding sequence. Now we go to the banks. that we know provide these. Remember, guys, not every bank is going to have a 0% credit card. Not every bank is going to have a cash loan. Not every bank is going to have a great auto loan. This is why you need to be banking with different banks, because every bank has a unique advantage. Some banks give you 0% credit cards for 9 months, while others give it to you for 18 months. I'd rather take the 18-month one. Some banks give you cash loans starting at 8% to 12%. Some other banks start at 10% to 20%. I'd rather go with the ones that start anywhere from 8 to 12. Auto loans. Some banks allow you to pay auto loans only up to 60 months, which is 5 years. Some banks allow you to pay auto loans all the way up to 144 months, which is 12 years. This allows you to stretch your payment and have it very low, which increases cash flow. Some banks give you lines of credit that start at an 8% interest rate, while others have promos where the first year it's 0%. So this is why different banks are going to be your solution to different products. And this is why it's important to build your sequence. You need to know which banks offer what in order for you to go get that. And then the other thing too is you need to know where they pull from. Which credit report are they following? Remember, you got Equifax, you got TransUnion, and then you got Experian. You got to figure out which ones are pulling Experian, which ones are pulling TransUnion, and which ones are pulling Equifax. If you have no hard inquiries right now, this is what you do. You choose 3 banks that are going to pull from Equifax, 3 banks that are going to pull from Experian, and then 3 that are going to pull from TransUnion. Now you're able to apply for a total of 9 products. And when you pull from a bank that only checks 1 credit bureau, let's say you just asked 6 banks for money, and 3 of them were on Experian, 3 of them were on TransUnion. If you're asking a bank that only pulls Equifax, they're not going to know you just asked 6 banks for money. So this is why it's important to know which bank you're going to and who they pull from. That way you can ask them individually without them having any clue that you just asked another bank for money. And this is also why you want to do your funding sequence within a short time frame, because most accounts, from what we've seen, will post 30 days after you get them. So if I apply right now, let's say it's the first of the month, on the first of the second month, it's going to go ahead and pop up. Let's say I apply on the 31st day. Well, now the bank is going to see that I just took out a loan or just took out a credit card from the previous bank, and they're going to most likely deny me or give me less money because they know I just got funded. This is why we do it when nobody knows. This is why there's strategy and you got to move quickly. So that's that. We're going to go into more detail in a different video. Go through the playlist, check it out. But this is the funding sequence. And then the last thing you just want to watch out for is, are you getting personal funding or business funding? Remember, personal funding is going to show up on your credit report. So when somebody pulls your credit report, they're going to see you took out this money. Business funding, most of the products that you take out and that I recommend are not going to show up on your personal credit. So the reason why that's beneficial to you as a business owner is because now you're able to take advantage of credit cards, cash loans, auto loans, and lines of credit without it ever showing up on your personal report. That means you took out a bunch of money and nobody knows about it. So if you need more money, you can go get it. The problem is that a lot of entrepreneurs or startups use their personal credit, take out this money, and then once they max it out, they're not able to get more money because they are showing that they're maxed out. If you're maxed out on the business side, as long as you're maintaining your minimum payments, you're not going to be showing that debt on the personal side, which makes the illusion that you're clean and have no debt to your name. So then you just go to another bank and get funded. So that's the beauty about business funding. However, if you do not have a strong personal credit report, you're going to need to build that up before you can even access business funding. So you're going to have to go through a couple rounds of personal funding. And honestly, there's nothing bad with getting a mixture of both. I would just frame it like this. If you are going to get both personal funding and business funding, use majority of the business funds first and leave the personal funds towards the end. And one other thing to note, cash loans and auto loans are usually going to be a little bit harder to get on the business side because they're usually going to require documents, which means you already got to be making money and you got to be usually in business for at least 2 years. So for most of the time, these are always going to be personal products anyways. But there are some banks out there that don't follow those same guidelines, which is why you have to do your research. But now, let's say we determined if we're doing personal or business funding, or when we're doing both, we already know what we're getting. The last thing we're going to do is come over here. We are going to deploy the funds. So guys, this is the most important step. Once we got the money, great. Now we need to know, how are we going to make our money back? Because remember, the point of taking out debt is not to just have money and not do anything with it. We want to take out money in order to start a business to generate income. So I always tell everybody, and this is what I did, get a coach. Doesn't matter if your coach is 10, 15, 20, 30, 50,000. Now, obviously, you're going to be limited by how much money you have available, but really do some research on the person you're about to sign up with. And if you feel confident and you feel like they are the one, invest into their mentorship. If you can, I'm big on one-on-one coaching because that allows you to pick their brain, call them, ask questions face to face. If you can, get something like that. This is going to save you so much stress and so much money. A lot of us want to figure things out on our own, but that is not the right move to make. When we try to figure things out alone, we go through the headaches, we lose a lot of money, and we feel alone. It's very tough to do something alone. I'm big on just pay for information, get the blueprint to success, and get the shortcut to success. So the first thing I'm always going to tell you is once you get the money, go get yourself a coach, business coach, mentor, whatever, in the line of industry that you want to be in. So that's one thing you can do once you get the money. You get the coach. After that, once you get the coach, the next thing you want to do is buy equipment. Depending on the business that you're going to be in, a lot of times we're probably going to have the same business expenses. For example, you guys are seeing me right here. I got a whiteboard. This was a equipment expense. The camera I'm using to record this high quality, that was another business expense. It's sitting on a tripod. I got lightings right here making everything look good. Another business expense. So what I would say is one of the main things you're always going to need is some type of camera. That can just be your phone. You don't have to go crazy. Or you can invest into a high quality camera. Get yourself some microphones as well. If you guys didn't notice, I actually have one right here. Let me show you guys so you guys can listen to this really good. But remember, now that you're in business, you want to attract clients. So you want to put out the image that you want people to see you as. So if you want high quality image, then go for that. And this is an investment into yourself. It's into your brand. So make sure that you buy the right equipment. But remember, it just depends, right? If you're in the trucking business, you might not need a whiteboard unless you're trying to teach people about trucking. You might not need the lights unless you're planning to make videos. So it just depends on the business that you're in. But one thing I can say is marketing is always going to help any business. And this is a form of marketing where we're showing what we know so people can trust us. So at the end of the day, cameras, microphones, lighting, something you can usually invest into regardless of your industry. But with that being said, buy equipment that is relevant to you. The next thing is hiring a team. This one is huge. When you're first starting a business, I recommend you do everything that is needed so you understand how a business works and you understand each role in the business. But as you start learning it, as you start getting success, hire a team. Instead of being in the business, you want to focus on the marketing, bringing in clients, and you want your team to help close those clients. And then you want to have a team that fulfills on that. So what I would do is start hiring a team to help you with this. You could start hiring a sales team. You could start hiring a video editing team. You can start hiring a fulfillment team. You can start hiring a lead generation team, just people to help you do more of what you are doing. Remember, we are limited because we are only one person. We only have 8 to 12, maybe 15 working hours in a day. If we get 2 people on the team, now that just doubled. If we get 3 people, now that just tripled. So the more people you have on the team, the more you can do. That is very important when you're trying to grow a business. And then finally, the last thing is invest into yourself, into your brand. Remember, you are the face of the brand. If that's how you're choosing to run your business, maybe you're doing personal branding. If you're faceless and you don't want to be involved in the face of your brand, that's totally fine. But regardless, you got to invest into the brand. So that could mean if you're personal branding, your image, that could mean, nice clothes, whatever, however you want to be perceived. That can mean better cameras. That can mean better setups, whatever. If you want to be faceless, that can mean better online systems, better websites, better SOPs, whatever. We just want to make sure that we're always investing into our brand, whether it's personal or faceless, because the more we can invest into the business, into the brand, the more higher quality it is, the more higher quality people it's going to attract, and the more people are going to want to work with you. So if you can nail all this, you're going to be good. So remember, guys, this is how you can turn credit into capital. We structure ourselves correctly with our credit. We set up our business. We build banking relationships. We put money deposits. Then we go ask for the money. We determine what kind of money we need and which banks we're going to have to go to. And then finally, we deploy these funds to get a coach to help us, to buy equipment for our business, to hire a team to keep scaling, and then to invest into our brand and continuously get better. If you can do all this, you will have success. And finally, to tie it into how I got into my business by doing this, me personally, I structured my credit file the right way. I then got funded $50,000, 0% interest. I then spent $30K to hire a coach. I then spent about $10K on equipment, doing setups and software. I then hired a team to help me fulfill and take on more clients. And then now I continue to invest into my brand based off what I wear, my image, the scenery around me. And now I'm continuing to invest in my brand, whether that's more mentorships, more knowledge, and just giving back to you guys. Credit is the key to getting money, so then you can use that money to start generating income. If you do this right, you will set yourself free and you will build wealth. Hope you guys like this video. Follow me if you're not following me already, where I'm going to show you guys everything I know about credit and funding, and I'll see you guys for the next one.